My own mother looked me straight in the eye and said, "You are an embarrassment to this family. Don't bother coming home," right before my dad's 55th birthday party. I was devastated, humiliated, and sitting in my car across the street from my childhood home, watching through the windows as my family celebrated without me. But then something happened that changed everything. My younger brother's new girlfriend, this perfect girl my mom had been raving about for weeks, stormed out of the party and walked straight toward my car. When she saw me, her eyes went wide and she said two words that would make my family realize they just made the biggest mistake of their lives. And trust me, by the time I was done, they weren't laughing anymore. Before I continue this story, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like and subscribe button. I grew up in the shadow. My name is Sarah, and for as long as I can remember, I was the invisible child in my family. While my younger brother Michael got praise for breathing, I had to fight for scraps of attention. When he brought home C's, it was "good effort, sweetheart." When I brought home B's, it was "why can't you be more social like your brother?" Michael got a car for his 16th birthday. I got a part-time job to pay for my own bus fare. He got his college tuition paid in full. I worked 3 jobs and took out loans. The pattern was clear. Golden boy Michael could do no wrong, and I was just there. When Michael dropped out of college after 2 years to find himself, my parents were supportive. When I graduated summa cum laude with a business degree, they couldn't even attend my graduation because they were helping Michael move apartments for the 4th time that year. Right after graduation, I landed an entry-level position at Morrison Industries as a junior analyst. The pay was terrible, $23,000 a year, but it was a foot in the door at one of the biggest supply chain companies in the state. While Michael was soul-searching and my parents were funding his lifestyle, I was putting in 60-hour weeks, learning everything I could about business operations. My first boss, Janet, was tough but fair. She saw something in me that my own family never did. "Sarah," she told me after my first year, "you have an eye for inefficiency that I've never seen. You can spot problems before they become disasters." Within 2 years, I was promoted to senior analyst. By year 3, I was leading a team of 5 people. My colleagues respected me, my supervisors valued my input, and I was finally in an environment where hard work actually paid off. But here's the thing, my family never understood. While they saw my long hours and exhaustion as signs of failure, I was actually building something incredible. I was developing expertise in supply chain optimization that would eventually make me indispensable. In my 4th year at Morrison, I noticed something. Small businesses were struggling with the same supply chain issues that big corporations had solved decades ago. They just couldn't afford the consultants or the systems to fix them. So I started Mitchell Innovations as a side hustle. Working nights and weekends, I began helping small businesses streamline their operations. My first client was a local restaurant that was losing money because they couldn't manage their inventory properly. I helped them cut costs by 30% in just 3 months. Word spread. Soon I had a bakery, a small manufacturing company, and a chain of local stores all wanting my help. What started as a weekend project was bringing in an extra $2,000 a month. My family still didn't take it seriously. "Sarah's little computer thing," Mom would say dismissively when relatives asked what I was doing. They had no idea I was building something that would eventually support all of them. By year 5 at Morrison, I was promoted to operations manager. By year 6, I was regional director, overseeing supply chain operations for the entire Southeast region. My salary had jumped from $32,000 to $95,000, and my side business was now bringing in $8,000 a month. That's when I started quietly helping my family financially. Dad's construction business was struggling during the recession, so I began subcontracting work to him through my corporate connections. When Mom racked up credit card debt she couldn't handle, I paid it off without telling her. When Michael couldn't make rent, I covered it and told him it was a loan he never had to pay back. I thought I was being a good daughter and sister. What I was really doing was enabling them to continue not respecting me while depending on me completely. Year 7 was when everything changed. I landed the Morrison Industries account for Mitchell Innovations, a $2.3 million contract to optimize their small business partnerships. Suddenly, my little side business was generating more revenue than most established companies. I made a decision that would define my career. I quit Morrison Industries and went full-time with my own company. It was terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. Within 6 months, I had 12 employees. Within a year, I had landed 3 more major contracts. I was featured in Business Weekly as one of the rising stars of supply chain innovation. My company was valued at $5 million. And my family? They still thought I was just doing computer work. By this point, I was making more money than I knew what to do with, but I was also carrying my entire family's financial burden. I was paying my parents' mortgage, Michael's rent, Mom's credit cards, the family phone bill, and sending enough work to Dad's business to keep him afloat. But here's what really hurt. They still treated me like I was struggling. When I couldn't attend family dinners because I was working, they'd say things like, "Sarah needs to learn work-life balance." When I looked tired from managing a growing company, they'd suggest I find a nice corporate job with benefits. They saw my success as luck, not skill. They saw my hard work as desperation, not ambition. And they never once asked how I was able to afford to help them so much. The build-up to the breaking point. 3 months before Dad's birthday party, Mitchell Innovations reached a major milestone. We had just secured our largest contract ever, a $4.2 million deal with TechFlow Dynamics to completely overhaul their supplier network across the Southeast. This wasn't just another client. This was the kind of contract that would establish Mitchell Innovations as a major player in the supply chain consulting industry. The project was massive, requiring me to coordinate with suppliers across 5 states, implement new inventory management systems, and train their entire operations team. I was working 70-hour weeks. It was the most exciting challenge of my career. The success of the TechFlow project opened doors I'd never imagined. Within weeks, I had inquiries from 3 other Fortune 500 companies wanting similar transformations. Mitchell Innovations was on the verge of explosive growth. We were talking about expanding to new markets, opening additional offices, and potentially doubling our workforce. I was exhausted, but exhilarated. Finally, I had built something that was getting real recognition in the business world. I'd been featured in 2 industry publications, invited to speak at a supply chain conference, and had corporate executives calling me directly for consultations. But my family still saw me as their personal problem solver who happened to do computer work on the side. When Dad's construction business hit another rough patch, I quietly funneled more subcontracting work his way through my growing network of clients. When Mom's credit card debt reached $18,000, I paid it off without a word. When Michael got fired from his part-time retail job for the 3rd time, I covered his expenses and told him to take his time finding something new. I was literally funding their lives while building a multi-million-dollar company, and they treated both as if they were barely worth mentioning. One day, I had to miss a family gathering because I was presenting to the TechFlow board of directors, a presentation that would determine whether they'd extend our contract for another $6 million. Mom called me afterward, annoyed. "Sarah, you really need to get your priorities straight. Michael brought Emma to dinner and she's such a lovely girl. She works at a real marketing company with normal hours. Maybe you should think about finding something more stable. That's when I knew I needed to make a decision about how much of myself I was willing to sacrifice for people who fundamentally didn't understand or value what I was building. I decided Dad's 55th birthday party would be the perfect opportunity to finally share the full scope of Mitchell Innovations' success. Maybe once they understood what I'd actually accomplished, things would change between us. Instead, I got banned from the party for being an embarrassment. The birthday party disaster. My dad's 55th birthday was coming up, and Mom was planning this huge family celebration. For weeks, she'd been talking about decorations, catering, inviting extended family, the works. I had been working crazy hours on the TechFlow expansion project, barely sleeping, but I was excited to celebrate Dad. I'd even planned to announce the big contract extension I'd just secured. News that would finally help them understand the magnitude of what I'd built with Mitchell Innovations. 3 days before the party, I came home exhausted from a 14-hour strategy session with my senior team. We'd been planning our expansion into 3 new markets based on the success of the TechFlow project. Mom was on the phone with my aunt, laughing about party plans. When she hung up, I asked if she needed help with anything for Dad's party. She looked at me with this disgusted expression and said, "Actually, I've been meaning to talk to you about that. I don't think you should come." I thought she was joking. "What do you mean?" "Sarah, look at yourself. You're always stressed, always working at that little business thing of yours. You look exhausted. You barely talk to family anymore. And honestly, you're just an embarrassment to this family. You have actually always been. Your dad's important friends will be there, and I can't have you representing us like this." I stood there, stunned. "Mom, it's Dad's birthday. I'm his daughter. Don't bother coming home after the party either. I think you need to figure out your priorities. Michael's bringing his new girlfriend, Emma, and she's such a sweet, successful girl. She works in marketing at a real company. Maybe seeing what success actually looks like will motivate you." I felt like I'd been slapped. 25 years of being second best, and now I wasn't even worthy of being in the same room as them. The night of Dad's party, I sat in my apartment, not tiny anymore, but a beautiful downtown loft I'd bought with Mitchell Innovations profits, eating takeout and trying not to cry. Around 8 p.m., I couldn't take it anymore. I decided to at least drive by the house to see Dad through the window and wish him happy birthday from afar, or at least enter briefly. I parked across the street and could see the party in full swing through the big front windows. Family, friends, laughter, everything I was banned from. That's when I saw Michael's new girlfriend, Emma, for the first time. She was beautiful, well-dressed, confident, everything Mom probably wished I was. I watched her charm everyone, fitting in perfectly with my family in a way I never could. I was about to drive away when I heard shouting. Through the window, I could see Michael and Emma having some kind of argument. She stormed out of the house, and before I knew it, she was walking right toward my car. She looked upset, fumbling with her phone. Our eyes met through my car window. I thought about driving away, but something made me roll down the window. "Are you okay?" I asked. She looked at me more closely, and her expression completely changed. Her eyes went wide, and she said, "Oh my God, Sarah? Sarah Mitchell?" I nodded, confused. And then she said the words that changed everything. "Hello, boss." Turns out, Emma worked at Fletcher & Associates, the marketing firm that Mitchell Innovations had hired for our major expansion campaign. She wasn't just any employee there. She was the account manager assigned to my project, working directly under the senior partner who reported to me. "Sarah, you're the CEO of Mitchell Innovations? The company that just landed the TechFlow Dynamics contract? That's a $4.2 million deal. You're like business legend status at our firm. We've been using your growth strategy as a case study for other clients. I sat there in shock. My little business thing had apparently made quite an impression in the marketing world. But what are you doing out here? Emma asked. Shouldn't you be at the party? I responded, saying, Oh, I wasn't invited. Emma's face went from confusion to absolute outrage. Are you kidding me? Your family doesn't know what you do? Sarah, you're one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the city. You were featured in Supply Chain Management Review last month. We use your company's expansion strategy as a blueprint for our other clients. Emma marched me back into that party, and I'll never forget the look on my family's faces when we walked in together. Mom rushed over, clearly annoyed. Sarah, I told you not to come. And Emma, sweetie, what's wrong? Michael said you were upset about something. Emma looked my mother dead in the eye and said, Mrs. Mitchell, did you know that your daughter Sarah is my boss? The room went quiet. What do you mean? Mom asked, laughing nervously. I mean, she's the CEO of the company that my firm works for. I report to people who report to her. Sarah just closed a multi-million-dollar deal last week. She's kind of a big deal in the business world. I watched my mother's face cycle through confusion, disbelief, and finally horrified realization. Dad walked over, looking confused. Sarah? What's going on? I thought you weren't coming tonight. She wasn't invited, Emma said before I could speak. Your wife told her she was an embarrassment to the family and banned her from your birthday party. The entire room was staring now. Extended family, Dad's friends, everyone. Uncle Dave, Dad's business partner, suddenly spoke up. Wait, Sarah Mitchell. Are you the Sarah Mitchell from Mitchell Innovations? The one who revolutionized supply chain management for small businesses? I nodded quietly. Holy cow, Jim, he said to my dad. Your daughter is the one I've been trying to get a meeting with for months. She's brilliant. Her company has been subcontracting work to us for over a year. That's what's been keeping our business afloat during the slow season. What followed was the most satisfying hour of my life. One by one, Dad's important friends, the same people Mom was worried about embarrassing, came up to congratulate me on my success. 3 of them asked for my business card. 2 of them mentioned they'd heard about Mitchell Innovations through industry connections. Michael looked like he'd seen a ghost. Sarah, I had no idea you were doing so well. You never asked, I replied simply. Mom tried to approach me multiple times, but I wasn't ready to talk to her yet. Finally, she cornered me in Dad's study. Sarah, honey, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. You didn't know because you never bothered to ask what I actually do for work. For 5 years, you've dismissed my career as a little business thing while praising Michael for stocking shelves part-time. She started crying. I just wanted what was best for you. You always seemed so stressed. I was stressed because I was building something real while getting 0 support from my own family. Do you know how hard it is to succeed when the people who are supposed to believe in you don't even think you're worth a seat at the dinner table? But I wasn't done yet. You see, being publicly embarrassed at the party was just the beginning. I needed them to truly understand what they'd lost when they cut me off. The next morning, I made some phone calls. Remember how I mentioned I'd been helping the family financially without them fully acknowledging it? Well, it was time they found out exactly how much I'd been doing. First call, the mortgage company. For the past 2 years, I'd been secretly making my parents' mortgage payments when Dad's business was struggling. I told them I'd no longer be covering those payments. Second call, Michael's landlord. Guess who had been covering his rent for 8 months when he was finding himself? Me. That stopped immediately. Third call, the private loan company where I'd been paying Mom's credit card debt, $18,000 worth that she'd racked up and couldn't handle. Done. Fourth call, I canceled the family phone plan that I'd been paying for. All of their phones were about to get cut off. But the biggest shock came when Dad went to his business account on Monday morning. You see, Mitchell Innovations hadn't just been successful on its own. We'd been subcontracting work to Dad's small construction business for over a year. I'd been funneling jobs his way through my growing network of corporate clients, keeping his business afloat during the slow season. That was about to end. By Tuesday afternoon, my phone was blowing up. Dad called first. "Sarah, there's been some mistake with the mortgage. They're saying our account is behind." But I thought the automatic payments were set up. I let him sweat for a moment before responding. "Dad, there's no mistake. I've been covering your mortgage for 2 years. Since I'm such an embarrassment to the family, I figured you wouldn't want my help anymore." Silence. Mom called an hour later, panicking. "Sarah, my credit card company is demanding full payment, and our phones are about to be shut off. There must be some error." "No error, Mom. I've been covering your debt and all our phone bills. But since you told me not to bother coming home, I figured you could handle your own expenses." Michael's call came that evening. "Sarah, please tell me you didn't actually stop paying my rent. My landlord is threatening eviction." "Michael, you're 23 years old. Maybe it's time you learn to pay your own bills like I've been doing since I was 16. What happened next was both satisfying and heartbreaking. My family, who had treated me like I was worthless, suddenly realized I'd been their financial safety net all along. Well, they knew some of it, but just never admitted it. Dad showed up at my apartment on Wednesday, looking defeated. "Sarah, I had no idea you were helping us so much. My business, without your contracts, I don't know how I'm going to make payroll." "You'll figure it out, Dad. You're a smart man. You just never had to, because I was quietly fixing everything behind the scenes." Mom came by on Thursday with tears in her eyes. "Please, Sarah, I know I said terrible things, but I'm begging you. We might lose the house. The same house you banned me from? That's unfortunate." But the most pathetic attempt came from Michael. He showed up on Thursday evening while Mom was leaving, as though they had planned it. He came with Emma. Yes, they were trying to work things out after she saw his true colors. "Sarah, come on. We're family. You can't just cut us off completely." Emma looked uncomfortable, but spoke up. "Michael, she has every right to be angry. Your family treated her horribly." "Stay out of this, Emma," Michael snapped, which told me everything I needed to know about why she'd stormed out of the party in the first place. That's when I realized I needed to make a decision, not just about helping them financially, but about what Mitchell Innovations meant to me and where I wanted to take my life and business next. I asked to have a family meeting. That meeting was the turning point, but not in the way you might think. Instead of accepting their desperate pleas and letting them back into my life on their terms, I made a decision that changed everything. "You know what?" I said, standing up from my chair. "I've heard enough." I looked at each of them. Dad with his defeated expression, Mom with tear-streaked face, Michael looking like a lost child for the first time in his life. For 25 years, I've been the one fixing everything, helping everyone, and getting nothing but criticism in return. You didn't just exclude me from one party, you made it clear that I don't belong in this family. "Sarah, please," Mom started. "No, let me finish." I pulled out my phone and showed them Mitchell Innovations' latest quarterly dashboard. "This is my company's performance report. Mitchell Innovations just secured a $3.2 million contract to streamline operations for 5 major manufacturing companies across the Midwest." The room went silent. I've been building Mitchell Innovations into a supply chain powerhouse while constantly dropping everything to solve your problems. Every family crisis, every emergency, every time you needed someone to fix your mistakes, I was there, even when it meant missing crucial business meetings or postponing expansion plans. I looked directly at my father. Remember when you called me in panic because your supplier contracts were falling through? I spent 3 weeks restructuring your entire supply chain operation for free, while my own company's West Coast expansion got delayed by 2 months. Then I turned to Michael. And when your startup failed because you couldn't manage inventory properly, who redesigned your entire logistics system? Me. For free, while I had paying clients waiting. I've been running Mitchell Innovations with one hand tied behind my back, constantly interrupted by family obligations. But you know what? I'm done dividing my attention. From now on, I'm focusing entirely on growing my company and working with people who actually value what I bring to the table. 2 weeks later, I made the decision that would transform everything. Instead of splitting my time between family emergencies and running Mitchell Innovations, I committed entirely to expanding my supply chain, consulting, and operations company. For 4 years, I'd been CEO of Mitchell Innovations, but I'd been operating under constant family interruptions, missing critical client presentations because Dad needed help with his failing business, postponing strategic partnerships because Mom had some crisis that only I could solve, turning down lucrative contracts because Michael needed me to bail him out of another business disaster. Now, with those distractions completely eliminated, Mitchell Innovations could operate at its true potential. And the transformation was immediate and dramatic. The first month of total focus was revelatory. I could finally pursue the aggressive growth strategy I'd been planning for 2 years. I reached out to Fortune 500 companies I'd been too distracted to properly court, developed comprehensive proposals for supply chain overhauls I'd been putting on the back burner, and began implementing the expansion plans that family obligations had repeatedly derailed. My biggest existing client, CEO Marcus Webb of Delta Manufacturing, noticed the change immediately. "Sarah, I don't know what's different, but Mitchell Innovations' performance has been extraordinary these past few weeks. Your new supply chain optimization protocol saved us $400,000 in the first month alone. We want to expand this to all our facilities nationwide." Within 3 months of complete business focus, I had secured 4 new major contracts, hired 6 additional supply chain specialists, and opened a second office in Chicago to handle our Midwest expansion. The results spoke for themselves. Mitchell Innovations' quarterly revenue jumped from $800,000 to $1.4 million. By the end of my first year of undivided attention, Mitchell Innovations had undergone a complete transformation. We weren't just another consulting firm anymore. We were becoming the go-to company for comprehensive supply chain transformation. Our revenue had grown from $3.2 million annually to $7.8 million, and we were handling operations for companies across 15 states. But more importantly, we were revolutionizing how businesses approached their entire supply chain ecosystem. The breakthrough moment came when we landed the contract that would define Mitchell Innovations' future. A $12 million deal with Continental Foods Corporation to completely redesign their supply chain from farm to retail shelf across 2,800 locations. "Sarah," said Continental's COO during our final presentation, "we've worked with every major consulting firm in the country, but Mitchell Innovations is the only company that understands supply chain operations as a complete ecosystem. You don't just fix problems, you prevent them from happening." This project was unlike anything we'd handled before. It required coordinating with over 400 suppliers, optimizing distribution across 12 regional centers, and creating real-time inventory management systems for thousands of retail locations. I spent 14 months personally overseeing every aspect of Continental's transformation. We implemented predictive analytics to prevent supply shortages, created automated reordering systems that reduced waste by 35%, and established supplier partnerships that cut their procurement costs by $8 million annually. The project wasn't just successful, it was revolutionary. Continental's supply chain became the industry gold standard, and companies across the food and retail sectors started demanding the Mitchell Innovations approach. At 28 years old, I was running a company that major corporations specifically sought out when they needed comprehensive operational transformation. We had evolved from fixing supply chain problems to preventing them entirely through predictive systems and strategic partnerships. Our client roster read like a Fortune 500 directory: Continental Foods, Delta Manufacturing, Midwest Automotive Group, Pacific Electronics, and 12 other major corporations whose supply chains we had completely revolutionized. Meanwhile, back home, my family was discovering what life looked like without their personal problem solver constantly available. But I was too busy transforming Mitchell Innovations into the world's premier supply chain optimization company to notice their struggles. My third year of complete business focus marked Mitchell Innovations' evolution into a global powerhouse. We opened offices in London, Tokyo, and São Paulo, each specializing in regional supply chain ecosystems while maintaining our core optimization protocols. I personally oversaw the international expansion, spending months in each region understanding local supply networks, regulatory requirements, and cultural business practices. The investment was enormous, but the results were extraordinary. But the most significant change wasn't just professional, it was personal. For the first time in my life, I was surrounded by people who valued excellence, innovation, and strategic thinking. I met David at the International Operations Summit in Geneva. He was the chief strategy officer for a renewable energy company, managing complex supply chains for solar and wind projects across Europe. Like me, he understood the intricate dance of global logistics and the satisfaction of solving seemingly impossible operational challenges. I've never met someone who thinks about supply chains the way you do, he told me over dinner after my keynote presentation. Most people see logistics as moving things from point A to point B. You see it as orchestrating entire ecosystems. Unlike my family, David celebrated my success. When Mitchell Innovations landed our biggest contract ever, a $45 million deal to optimize supply chains for a consortium of renewable energy companies, he was genuinely excited for me. We bought a house together in the Seattle Hills, a modern home with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Puget Sound and Mount Rainier, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I was living my true potential instead of diminishing myself for others. My phone rang constantly for the first 18 months after I cut contact. Voicemails, texts, emails, all begging me to come back, to help, to use Mitchell Innovations resources to solve their crises. But I was too busy. Sarah, please, Dad's business is failing completely. We know you have connections now. Could Mitchell Innovations maybe help us find suppliers? Mom's voicemail after their third bankruptcy. I saw your company in Forbes. I know you're successful now. Please don't abandon us. I'll do anything. Michael's email after his fourth failed startup. Your company handles supply chains, right? Maybe you could help us figure out our inventory problems? I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. Dad's desperate text after losing their house. I didn't respond to any of them. 4 years later, Mitchell Innovations had become the global leader in supply chain optimization, with offices on every continent and contracts with over 200 major corporations. I was invited to deliver the keynote address at the Greater Metro Chamber of Commerce in my hometown, not just as a successful local business owner, but as one of the most influential supply chain strategists in the world. As I walked to the podium in my custom-tailored suit, addressing a room full of business leaders, politicians, and industry executives, I spotted familiar faces in the back row. My parents, looking significantly older and worn down, sitting in the furthest seats from the stage. My presentation was titled, Building Resilient Global Supply Networks in an Interconnected Economy. I spoke about Mitchell Innovations' role in optimizing operations for companies managing billions of dollars in goods and services, about preventing supply chain disruptions that could affect millions of consumers, about creating sustainable logistics systems that would define the next decade of global commerce. After my speech, they approached me near the exit. Mom looked nervous. Dad looked defeated in a way I'd never seen before. "Sarah," Dad said quietly, "we're so proud of you. Mitchell Innovations, we had no idea you were building something this significant." I looked at them for a long moment. 4 years ago, those words would have meant everything to me. Now, they felt like background noise compared to the genuine respect I received from international business leaders, innovative thinkers, and strategic partners who understood the complexity of what I'd built. "Thank you," I said politely. "I hope you found the presentation informative. Could we talk? Maybe get coffee? We understand if you're busy, but..." Mom asked hopefully. I smiled, not the fake smile I used to give them to keep peace, but the confident smile of someone who had built something extraordinary and was genuinely content with her life. "I'm sorry, but I have a flight to catch." And I walked away. Not angrily, not dramatically, but with the quiet confidence of someone who had won completely, not by destroying others, but by building something remarkable. Sometimes the best response to people who diminish you isn't revenge or retaliation. Sometimes it's simply removing their ability to limit your potential and then flourishing beyond their wildest imagination. I didn't destroy my family out of spite. I simply stopped allowing their crises and criticisms to interfere with my ability to build something extraordinary. And in doing so, I discovered I was capable of creating solutions and systems that could benefit millions of people globally. My family learned too late that they'd had someone capable of building a global enterprise in their midst and had treated her like a perpetual problem solver for their personal issues. Today, I'm not the daughter desperately trying to prove herself worthy of acknowledgement. I'm the CEO who transformed how major corporations think about supply chain management, who created systems that optimize billions of dollars in global operations, and who wakes up every day excited about solving complex logistical challenges that impact the global economy. That's the real victory. Not their eventual recognition or their regret, but my freedom to operate at my full potential and create something that makes a genuine difference in the world. And honestly, that's the sweetest success of all. Remember, sometimes the best response to being underestimated is simply removing the limitations others place on you and then building something extraordinary. Thank you for listening to my story. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Have you experienced something like this? Share your story. We want to hear from you too.